Welcome back to the Christianity and Business Podcast, an initiative of the Archie W. Dunham College of Business at Houston Christian University. I'm your host, Darren Shear, and this is the show that helps Christian business leaders to integrate biblical values into business. On today's episode, we're joined by Brad Carr. Brad is president and founder of Sonic Air. He started the company because of his passion for providing the best engineering solution to a business problem. He saw that no one had a way to keep their plants safe from combustible dust and lint fires. And I'm referring to industrial plants, not just greenery. He and his engineers developed a revolutionary new design approach to solve this problem called barrier air. He's committed to running his company on biblical principles and cultivating a company culture that honors the Lord. Brad, welcome to the Christianity and Business Podcast.
Thank you, Darren. I agree with you. I hope that in today's discussion, it'll be an encouragement to someone to want to pursue a culture that is honoring to God.
Yes, sir. So, Brad, when did you first realize God wanted to be involved in your work in the marketplace?
I would say I joined a group called C12. I'd taken the company from the startup phase and was really in what I call the fun phase, where we took off. We're growing 20-30% a year. We were profitable. And that really had to do with Georgia Pacific and Centos contacting us, and things really took off. And I knew that I needed some peers that could speak to me about some of the problems I was having with growth as a new company. And I looked at another group called Vistage or something like that, but I really wanted the one that was based around the gospel, I guess you'd say, Christianity. So within that, all of a sudden there was a concept that you could use your business to promote the gospel and not just make a product and make a profit, which that excited me because really ever since I met Jesus, he's been number one, and I've always wanted him to be number one. I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. Now that nobody's going, fewer people, particularly younger people, are not going to church. You need to have some way of crossing their path, and if you employ them, they have to be with you at least 40 hours a week. And it just made sense to me. Yeah.
And what's one of your favorite scriptures related to business and entrepreneurship?
I can't quote it, but it is one we use every day. But just that it is God who causes us to prosper. Obviously, I work hard and everybody works hard, but at the end of the day, there are so many things that we're not in control of, and that's the way when we have our weekly meetings, we start out praying because we want God to be the one who's glorified.
Yeah. Well, there's in Deuteronomy, it says that the Lord has given us the power to produce wealth, to establish his covenant. In Psalms, it says the Lord delights in the prosperity of his servants. So there's probably, verses like that. There's a lot of them kind of swimming around in our head, but because it's really a theme of the scripture that it all does come from the Lord. And one of the ways that you express that is in your company's mission statement, to show God's goodness to our partners and communities through proven fugitive dust solutions that create safer, healthier, and more efficient work environments. How does accomplishing that show God's goodness?
Well, obviously, you're blessing people with protecting them. Our system will keep plants from literally blowing up or catching on fire because we remove the fuel overhead in particular that can cause that. It also cleans up the air, so all the employees working there, what they're breathing is better. And as far as the business owner, it reduces the cost of manual housekeeping, shutting the plant down to clean it. So it's really bringing three very positive things into the plant or the facility's operation.
Yeah, I love that, because um, showing the Lord's goodness and bringing glory to God through a company it's not just about what we're doing when we're not doing our job or not rendering the service that God has given to us. Like, you're really doing faith in the workplace when you're sharing the gospel and you're, passing out tracts to your employees and this kind of thing. But you're doing it through just the work that you're doing when you recognize that, wow, I mean, to create a safer, healthier, more efficient work environment, that's truly honoring to the Lord.
We had one customer, he said, his comment was that we are literally saving lives,
Wow.
which is kind of like the gospel. And it's true. I mean, most people don't realize it, but a lot of industrial plants do blow up and have blown up. I know here in North Carolina, they made rubber stoppers, a pharmaceutical plant with rubber dust that blew up and killed a half a dozen or a dozen people, maimed a bunch of people, all because the dust accumulated and people were not paying attention to it.
Wow. That's a lot of dust.
Yeah.
I mean, is that like dust that you can, it seems like at that point you'd be able to really see it in the air, or is this something that really is just,
Well, I think because it's overhead,
yeah,
most of it, people aren't looking overhead. They're looking down on the floor, where they're working. And, if you've never experienced it, you don't think about it. But OSHA, I guess, starting around 12 years ago, had a dust emphasis program because there were so many plants that had blown up. There's a sugar refinery in Savannah, Georgia, and there was sugar dust that blew up, and again, it killed at least a dozen people. And then there's the facilities that burn up too. That usually, if it's a fire, people can get out of the building, but if it's an explosion, it reacts too fast.
yeah,
So we want to prevent that. If you get rid of the fuel, nothing is going to happen.
right. So clearly there is a eternal kingdom value in just the value proposition of your company, but you're also doing some really great things within the culture and the way that you take care of your employees. But it didn't necessarily start out that way. From what I understand, you brought in the Best Christian Workplaces Institute, and they did an assessment of your company. Tell us about that journey.
Well, I guess I was encouraged by fellow businessmen through C12 to, you don't really know what kind of impact you're having for the kingdom if you don't measure it. And so I thought, oh, okay. But when you live in a corner office, you really don't know what's happening sometimes, particularly culturally. So we did the assessment, and it came back we were toxic, which obviously was kind of a blow. But I knew that it was my fault or responsibility anyway to try to figure this out and turn it around, because I call it, I try to create a petri dish in my business as far as the culture where the gospel can be talked about with employees. I mean, they can talk about whatever they want to talk about, but that there wouldn't be a hindrance to people just, building relationships and be able to share what is meaningful in their lives. But yet, if you have a toxic environment, that does not show God's goodness. So we had to do something about it.
Yeah. So what were some of the sort of before and after snapshots that you could share with us?
Well, I guess I'll back up a little bit. The way we got into the problem was, it took us about 3.5 years to get out of the startup phase. Then we went into the fun phase, but we're still small. Sales were growing 20-30% a year, making good profits. We really finally got so big that we needed organization. And even though I have an engineering degree, I am not an organized person. And I've really learned through the process that I needed people who had the skills of organizing other than myself. And so we implemented a system called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, that really put in accountability and measurements. And it caused us to develop our core values, which is humble, hungry, people smart, and grateful. And when we interview people, if they don't meet those qualifications, that we will not hire them. They can be the best, whatever their craft is. Obviously, that if we hire someone for a position with certain need or crafts, they got to be able to do that. But our culture really takes top priority, because we feel like if you get the culture right, then what you get out of people is exponentially greater, because now they can live up to their potential, which is tremendous.
Yeah.
So that's what caused us to do it. We realized we were kind of in our own way. I guess you'd say, Darren, the second thing was we had several people on our leadership team that really did not want to go where I wanted to go, which was really to use the business as a petri dish for the gospel. Good people, no problem, but they really just want business to be business. And I wanted it to be greater than business. I guess they call it the why, begin with why. And so they left the company, and we replaced them with leaders that really wanted to go where we wanted to go. And I'd say getting the alignment at the top of the company and the leadership, that's why we were so toxic, is people that, would see that, one leader wanted to go this way, one leader wanted to go another way. And we just didn't have unity. And once we got the right people on the bus, and we had our core values along with measurements and everything else, that's when things really started to turn around.
Yeah. What's an example of something where, as you said, they just wanted it to be business as usual, and you were wanting to make it as you said, a petri dish for the gospel? Tactically, what did that look like?
I wanted to get all of our leaders to join C12, and not all of them wanted to join C12.
Why not?
I don't know.
You were going to pay for it.
I know. I guess they thought it was like Sunday school or a waste of their time. I don't know. I can't answer. I wasn't in their head. The other thing was in our core focus statement of beginning with showing God's goodness. They thought that was off-putting to people, and maybe it's a little bit like being politically incorrect. I don't know, the kind of where our culture has gone. They didn't want to offend people. Whereas, my thinking was, particularly if you're hiring someone, they need to know what they're getting into. We don't need to hide it. We don't need to be abusive. But just to say you want to show God's goodness, if that offends somebody, we need to find out early. There could be an opportunity to, share the gospel there. What's happened that makes that offensive to you. But anyway, I'd say that probably kind of encapsulates it. That I just wanted, and we don't hand out tracts, and we don't have whatever rallies or preaching going on. It's just people day to day that share what's happening in their lives, and the fact that they got the freedom to talk about really whatever they want to talk about, as long as they're civil about it, not such as that, which is not difficult, really in itself.
Yeah. And what was another? I think there was a particular manager that really was impediment to cultivating the kind of culture that you wanted. Can you tell us about how that played out?
Yes, and this was really before we had the EOS implemented. That we had a manager that would talk behind your back, I guess you'd say bad things, and all the things that I was doing wrong, I guess, or whoever else in leadership was doing wrong, and so that causes division. Obviously, that people don't know who to believe when all the leadership's not on the same page. And the kind of irony of it is that today I love the guy. I still consider him a friend, but he was miserable working here, and when I told me he had to go, I said it's as much or more for you than it is for the company, because you're showing up miserable every day. Obviously this isn't working out, and we don't have time to figure it out because the company needs everybody rowing in the same direction. And I guess that was probably the beginning of realizing that, people have really got to agree on the why, which is, in our case, is showing God's goodness.
Yeah.
And that's our employees, it's our customers, it's our vendors, as well as our community.
Yeah. And you relieved him of his duties after you tried to work with him for 4 or 5 months. You sent him to a week-long leadership training course to really kind of help him get his mind right. And he quit after 2 days, right? Just kind of decided he didn't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. It really wasn't. It made me realize this is not going to work out, and I'm probably one of the worst people to fire people. I put up with a whole lot, and I think the sooner you can do it, and I think you can do it with love, the better off everybody is once you realize that this is not a fit. And I will say this, what we have experienced over the years is when someone starts failing at their job, whatever their responsibilities are, their core values, weaknesses will show up. Like if there's a lack of humility, hey, I'm not, we don't mind people failing as long as they're honest about it. We talk about it. Or if they're not hungry, they don't want to work hard, or whatever the issue is, it really starts showing up. And I guess that's the way using the core values tells us that they're either on the wrong bus or they're in the wrong seat. And we have some experiences where we had one person in particular, he had all the core values, but he's in the wrong seat and he was failing at his job because it was requiring certain skills he didn't have. And we changed him to a different job and he has flourished. I mean, so, just because someone's failing doesn't mean there can't be somewhere else, even though I would say that's more the exception than the rule.
Yeah. So in the Best Christian Workplaces Institute survey, you guys jumped from 35% employee engagement rate to 65% employee engagement. If you were to apply the 80-20 reasoning behind that increase, would you say that it was 80% changing out the management, or what? How would you really account for the bulk of what caused that?
Yeah, I'd say 80% was change in leadership.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't care what the organization is. It could be a church, it could be anything. It always begins at the top and goes down. I would say probably in my case, it was probably more omissive than just ignoring problems, hoping they'd go away rather than jumping into them. One of the things we kind of picked up from C12 is a buffalo culture where you run into your problems. And that's really the way we are today is if there's a problem, and I think it's because everybody's got everybody's back. They know that we're here together. We're here to solve whatever that issue is, but getting it right at the top. Until you do that, there's nothing else you can do that will fix it.
Yeah. How do you explain to your employees the severity with which you would consider doing something like gossiping or just not, maybe initially they were hungry and they were hustling, but now they're not doing that anymore? Like, how do you communicate what is a fireable offense or an offense that really is going to prevent them from being able to go anywhere in this company?
That's a great question. And that's probably somewhere where EOS has really helped us. And that's called rhythm. We have quarterly meetings for the whole corporation. And we always in our meetings reemphasize our core focus, and we go through and emphasize our core values and what they mean. But in addition to that, we have quarterly conversations with all of our employees and their supervisors. And during that conversation, what always comes up is how do they feel like they would rate themselves on the core values, and the supervisor rates them on the core values. And if it's not a thumbs up on anything, then there's a discussion about it. And if it's a thumbs down, then basically they're going to end up in a 3 strikes and you're out, where they've got a kind of a probationary period where they've got to change that core value, or we're going to ask them to go off of the bus. And in our experiences, some people do change, but if they're not going to change, we don't have to fire them because they leave. And it's not just the management either. Their peers put pressure on them. Everybody that works here loves the culture, and they don't want someone coming in and messing it up because they don't have the core value.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because the culture you're cultivating is a place where God's goodness is shown. And so if somebody is counterproductive to that, I mean, that's cancerous to the whole organization.
Yeah. And I don't know, I can put a number on what the value is of culture, but it really is tremendous. One example, I had a serviceman at a plant, and he saw 3 or 4 of our fans on the floor in the shop, said, "Hey, this is not good." So he took the initiative. He said, "We got to do something about this." He's not the owner. He works here. And, we talked about it, and we worked out a deal where the customer would ship the fans back, and for a certain amount of money, we'd fix them and ship them back to them. Lost our shirt on that first venture, but we learned from it. But that's just one example of we got people all the time seeing better ways of doing things and coming up with ideas on, and it may be an idea on how can we help our customer. So that I don't want just one person in the company with all the good ideas. You want everybody with all the good ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Brad, is there something you're working on right now you're excited about that you want to tell our listeners about how they can potentially get involved?
You talking about our culture?
So, a lot of times folks will come on the show and they want to tell everyone about their book or something like that. I think you're really here. You're in the trenches with your company doing this stuff that we teach on this show, and here really just to share and encourage others. But I just didn't know if there was a certain link or something you wanted to share with our listeners today.
No, I guess the only thing I would close it in and is that I've kind of entered a new phase of life where I'm working half-time as the visionary, and it's part of EOS. Is I operate as a visionary. I've got all the ideas, and half of them are pretty crazy. And our chief operating officer really runs the company day to day. So if I take off a week or 2, it doesn't affect anything because I don't have anything to do with operations. And I am really having fun because I'm doing really what I think God meant me to do, which is being creative and creating, whether it's a new product or a new process or a system or, whatever the ideas that comes. That way we're constantly improving what we're putting out to people. And I think we're on our 4th generation in 20 years as far as our basic design on the fan. So we're constantly improving and adding to it. And, I'm having a blast at this phase where I think a lot of people would have retired. My thinking is, why don't I want to retire? I'm impacting the kingdom and I'm having a good time.
Yeah. Well, we do have folks listening to this who are in a lot of different facets of the marketplace, some in industrial companies that probably need your the products and services that you offer. So the website is Sonic Air, SonicAire.com. People can go and check out and learn more about your technology and your processes. But Brad, thank you for being so generous with your time and your wisdom acquired through your journey. We really appreciate the the work you're doing and keep showing God's goodness in the marketplace.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if so, we would greatly appreciate it if you'd leave us a quick rating and review for the Christianity and Business podcast on iTunes. You can get more information about HCU's Center for Christianity and Business and sign up to receive free access to all issues of the Christian Business Review Journal by visiting our website at christianityandbusiness.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep integrating biblical values into your business.